So there's a question for the morning as the New Patriotic Party goes to election this Saturday. What is your prediction of the outcome? Based on all that you've heard, based on all that you've seen, what do you think? Do you have a preference? Send us your views on our WhatsApp number 053 998 6996. How do you read the landscape? We'll be discussing that this morning. So if you notice, the newspapers have been heavy on the NPP. Yesterday, Kennedy Japan was on the front page of the Daily Graphic with a promise of job creation. Dr. Bawumia is on the front page today with a promise for party welfare. Brian Champon is on the Chronicle front page with a claim that he's shaking Ashanti. There's clearly more fever on the ground as the race gets to a final straight. Here are some comments. Good morning, CTBS. Bawumia wins because everything he has been bent to make sure he's winning. I don't know if I'm reading this right or I'm just not seeing this well. Hi, Citi. This is Samuel reaching out from Tel Aviv. Of the 5 candidates, I think Engineer Ejepon might be MPP's best bet. He's liked and respected by most and isn't one with a lot of debt in the public eye. But I think DMB will win this by around 57%, you say. Alrighty. So send us a WhatsApp message 053 998 6996. So yesterday I interviewed 2 people with 2 different polls. And it's interesting in Ghana, you can have the same race, different out predictions. Of course, it depends on the way they did their work and what they were looking out for. But Dr. Evans said he felt Dr. Kennedy Japan was going to win. He actually felt that only one person could cross the 50% line, and that was Kennedy Japan. He had worst case and best case scenarios. Musa Dankwa, who we've spoken to many times, believes Dr. Bawumia is going to win one touch, and he thinks it's 57 plus or minus 3, so either 54 or 61. Right. So if Musa is correct, that means that Dr. Bawumia on the upper end will match his 2023 result, or it could be much tighter. So I think that the first question to raise for the this panel is, do you get a sense that this race is tighter than the 2023 race? 2023 we had initially Alan, Kennedy, and then we also had Dr. Friye, Kwame Japan, and of course the Dr. Bawumia. And in that race, they had 2 rounds of voting, but they've decided to scrap that. So do we get the sense that things are closer here because the party is in opposition? Because in that one, the winner got 61 and the loser had approximately 38. And then there were a few others who got very low marks. So let me start with, does the race feel tighter just by observing the media coverage and the way it's going? Does it look tighter now than it did in 2023?
Yes.
It does?
I think this looks much tighter because there's a certain vulnerability around Bawumia that did not exist the last time. The vulnerability being that he contested the election and didn't win. And that vulnerability means that it becomes something that can be used against you by your opponents. And we have heard, for instance, Dr. Brian Champon eloquently break down why Dr. Bawumia lost the NPP election. Now, if anybody who watched his face-to-face interview with Umar Rusanda, he explained why he was blaming Dr. Bawumia for the election loss and why he felt that the party could have done better. And so clearly that is being used on the ground. And I think it's also something that delegates, once the election ended, would ask themselves, this person has been the leading light of the party, but was he the right choice? Is he still the right choice? Those kind of questions permeate amongst the delegates consistently. They ruminate. So
you're saying that the circumstances under which the election is lost can be used against a candidate.
Yes.
And in this case, some of his opponents
have weaponized it.
Him.
Yes.
That's an interesting one.
They have weaponized it, particularly if you listen to Kennedy Japan, if you listen to Brian. I think that the tactic of Kwame Japan and Dr. Duchum has been clearly different.
Yeah.
But if you listen to Kennedy Japan, a lot of places that he's visited, and he has visited pretty extensively. And again, another thing that makes this closer is it's just how much time those who are facing off against Bawumia, who are challenging him quite clearly in this regard, again, Brian and Ken, how much time they've had to move around the country to, tell their delegates what they offer. I think the last time they did not get as much of an opportunity. If you look at some of the rounds that have been made, and I saw some percentages,
they've traveled a lot. Gone to different places.
Kennedy Japan has done almost 98% coverage of the country compared to, and in fact, he's done more coverage than Bawumia, who's slightly behind in that regard at around 97%.
What kind of coverage is it?
In terms of moving around the country and the delegates.
Really?
Ken has spent a lot of time on the road because of he started a bit early.
Okay.
As compared to Bawumia in this regard. Brian Achampong stepped it up in the middle. But he's been very, very visible. Everybody seems to have a plan. You go here, then you avoid this one, you go here. But some of them have done the rounds where they've been to certain places even twice or thrice. I've been aware of those who invite even some of the delegates to their strong bases. So it's not even just about going to where the delegates are, such as they even bring the delegates to them for them to have interactions with. So it's a pretty different dynamic from what we had previously, and that is what I guess makes this particular race very interesting over the weekend.
Point for you. So, in a way, you're saying that the delegates will be forced to make a choice as to how they interpret the 2024 election results.
There's that.
Whether they believe it was the bad performance of the NPP government collectively that made them, because these are delegates who are obviously party people.
Yes.
So whether they think it was a collective responsibility that led to the loss, or they think the candidate was the problem.
Yes, so the stability
and you
of the
feel
candidate.
the two contenders are pushing the latter argument.
Yes,
that it was the candidate.
The suitability of the candidate seems to be a bigger punch for those two in particular.
Okay, but what is interesting about that argument is that I think the generality of Ghanaians would say to you that election outcome was a judgment on the 8 years of Akufo-Addo, particularly the last 4 years.
Yes.
So it feels like a bit of a risky approach, because most Ghanaians think that the NPP was kicked out of the NPP because they felt like maybe the government didn't do well. Of course, Bawumia represented the NPP at the poll.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe certainly they will come down to whether the delegates think it was the way the government overall performed, for which reason they lost, or whether their candidate was flawed.
If you listen to Brian, for instance, and I listened to Brian, that tomorrow Sunday interview, I think we should be playing it back a bit. Brian's analysis of even the party's performance in the Muslim-dominated communities, the Zongo communities, as he called it, and his breakdown of those, and just the numbers there, was not just an overview of the NPP or Akufo-Addo. He was speaking directly to an area where he felt this person should have had a clear advantage from the onset and didn't give us any advantages. We've had Ken, if you listen to his push, talk about a very different economic paradigm. He talks about him being pro-business, talks about...
He seems to be running a national
campaign. But it's not just a national campaign. It's also basically a campaign that speaks slightly to what Dr. Bawumia was known for back then. And what those within the party say perhaps he ran away from, in terms of whether he was allowed to speak, whether he was not allowed to speak, what his ideas were, because those ideas were pretty pertinent in the NPP coming to power, but post they coming to power seemed to diminish.
So the question then becomes, will delegates buy that? Because now we are listening to Dr. Bawumia join his campaigns, talk to delegates about their welfare and what he wants to do to help them.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and of course, the other issue we haven't mentioned is that in 2023, President Akufo-Addo was perceived to be supporting Dr. Bawumia. I use the word perceived because he was the sitting president and Dr. Bawumia was the vice president. So he was perceived to be supporting him. So that if there was any disaffection for the president, even within his own party, that will be visited on Dr. Bawumia. But now that you have I don't think it's clear who Dr. Nana Akufo-Addo supports. I don't know what, I think that's actually possibly good.
Yes.
Right? I don't think it's clear who he supports. So does that not in a way unshackle Bawumia in a sense? Because if the people who are unhappy with the way the government was, for example, about 70 MPs came together and said President Akufo-Addo should sack the finance minister.
It didn't happen.
Okay. So if he's now seen as supporting a candidate in 2023, okay, Charlie, it's the same old. So the fact that he's not endorsed anybody, could that reduce the anger against Bawumia around those who felt that Akufo-Addo was the cause of their problem?
Perhaps, but I look at it this way. The way delegates view the internal workings of their party perhaps is very different from how we on the outside analyze it. And what delegates perhaps feel they need to look at in terms of their considerations for this particular race on Saturday might not necessarily be just who wins as an election. The considerations might be who strengthens the party. You see? Because there are those who feel the party is in flux. Okay, and if you talk to some people, they will tell you they understand that perhaps their chances of winning the next election is not as good. So why don't we use this as a gap period to try and cement the party again in terms of where the party is, so that after that period, we could then become a much more formidable force for our opponents. So it's always difficult going into the mind of a delegate, hence the very popular refrain, fear delegates, because you don't know exactly what it is that will sway.
When Musa did the breakdown of delegates for me, I thought it would be useful in our discussion. He did an age profile of delegates. The majority, there are two big numbers. The 18 to 24 are not that old.
Yes.
They are not many.
24
to 44 are about 40%. Then 44 to 55-ish is the next big group. And then above 55 is another small group. So basically, it's people born between 1992 and maybe 1960. Yeah. All right. So they are not as youthful as we think. Then he also did the educational breakdown, about 11% no education, another 41% or so just BC. So my point is, and you know, he was basically saying that his argument was that we are over-analyzing delegates and some of the things we are saying, that they may look at very simple things.
Yes.
Okay, so the issue of we want a strong party, how they even perceive that may not be the way you and I perceive it. Which is why I say, when you look at the messages of the candidates, when I listen to Bawumia, for example, he keeps talking about delegates' welfare.
Yeah.
Educhum says that what I'll do for you. Which seems to me to be, it may resonate more than why did we lose and those things. Because, look, let's be honest, some people have gone to court to say the delegate system is flawed. Because a delegate is not necessarily sitting here thinking like, I'm not saying that they are all bad people, but I'm not sure their main concern is that, oh, Ghana is going wrong and we must. They are basically thinking, Charlie, who is our man? What is in for us?
Yes.
Okay, so it may boil down to who the delegates like and who takes care of the delegates well, or who the delegates feel is their person who knows them that they can trust. Now, the point you make about who unite the party, it's a very interesting point, because I think you are right. Delegates are concerned about party unity a lot. But the challenge is that when you listen to the rhetoric of the campaign, are you sure that the two guys who are contesting Bawumia will be perceived to be unifiers? Because if you listen to particularly Kennedy Japon's rhetoric, it seems very difficult. So, for example, you know, Musa's survey said that some people say they want somebody who hold the party together. Okay, so if you're a delegate and that's concerning for you, which of the candidates' victory do you think holds the party together? I'm not sure.
None of us.
But it's some way.
But that's why I'm saying that delegates.
Because in my view, it feels to me like Bawumia is a safe choice in a sense, because from the way I calculated, it seems to me as if Kennedy is the maverick for those who want drastic change, and Bawumia is the same choice for those safe choice for those who want a certain level of stability and predictability. Do you understand? So it's like we don't know what Kennedy will do, but with Bawumia, at least we are sure that certain things just it's more gradualist approach.
The thing is this.
I don't know whether it will work against or for. I don't know what their mind is, but it seems to me like Bawumia is the safe, gradualist choice, and Kennedy is the maverick, drastic change choice. And Brian is like the dark horse.
I think there's a search for an identity. Okay, for me, that is how I view it. And I get the sense that the delegates might also be on that track where they are looking for who ends up letting us look strong. Strength has always been a key look for a political party in this country. You can't afford to look weak at any point in time. Now, the definition of what strength and weakness is comes differently. Somebody can say Bawumia is silent but strong. Somebody might say Ken might be publicly loud but weak, or Brian might be the same. You understand? There are different dynamics to it. Again, the delegates will determine what kind of style, that strength, that and unity that they are looking for should look like. But what is pretty clear for me in looking at, for instance, you look at that band 2040, 44. That is at 40% of the party.
A lot more.
It's a lot of people. If you have a chat with them, and I know quite a few of those, are not happy with the current standing of the party. There is a view that the party needs to change its track. The party needs to clean up the last 8 years or 9 years in order to be able to resell itself to the Ghanaian public. As to how that is done and who does that, I guess is also an important agenda on the table for them.
Let me give you numbers. 25 to 34 is 12%.
Yeah.
35 to 44 is 43%. 45 to 54 is 34%. 55 to 64 is 9%. So the large majority of delegates are aged between 35 and 54. Please come. Right. So they are not as young as we think.
Yeah.
So his interpretation of that was that because they are much older, they may be more conservative within the way they see their politics. Somebody who is 35 years old was born in 1991-ish, right? So his first election was probably Kufuor's second term. So the younger voters are not that many. And then he also talks about the educational level where 43% have BC as their highest. Another 11% have no formal education. So if you take 11% plus 43, 53% have either BC or lower. 34% have only SHS. Only 12% has tertiary. So in the analysis, like, you know what? Don't overanalyze.
True.
Don't overanalyze because this actually represents the ordinary Ghanaian.
Yes.
The only problem is that the NPP age profile does not really sort of align with the national age profile. You know, in the national age profile, there are a lot more people in the 18 to 35 categories. But be that as it's made, the education profile tends to be the same. We'll come back to this point. I'll take Sky's views as well. So we're asking, who do you think will win? What are the issues at play? Send us your views, 053-998-6996. The New Patriotic Party has 211,000 delegates going to vote in over 276 constituencies. There's over 300 polling centers. We'll be covering that on Saturday from 7 o'clock on the Citi FM dial and also on ChannelOne television. And we'll be here till the results are out. I saw an article in the newspaper today that suggests that the election is a fight for the soul of the New Patriotic Party and where it goes from here. So beyond choosing a flag bearer, it's also a big fight for where the party would face going forward. I'll come to the issues around the tone of the campaign. Sky, let me just take a couple of points from you. So Godfrey's view is that the two leading challengers seem to be attacking the person, okay, not the person, the performance of the flag bearer, i.e. they're basically saying the 41% is because of the candidate, in addition to other promises they are making. So my view is that it looks like there's a whole, the delegates have to decide how they interpret what happened in 2024, whether they take it as a collective failure as a result of the parties or the government, or their own failure as delegates for not working hard, or the candidate who didn't do well. Right? And I look at the profile of the delegates and all of that. how do you see that message going? Because again, as I said, Bawumia's message is to delegates. When you listen to him, he's basically saying, I'm thinking of your welfare, I'm going to help you, and that kind of thing. Brian is also saying the same kind of thing. So it seems as if this is going to boil down to where delegates are thinking and what their mindset is about their own party and what happened, correct?
Yes, to a large extent. I understand why a candidate in an election would frame his message the way these two have decided to frame it, because at the end of the day, you want to topple the person who clearly has the throne, at least in one hand, waiting to use the other hand to grab it, because he's been there before and is seeking to get back there. Now, if you look at it, the question you should ask yourself in reverse is whether any stellar candidate, regardless of whatever challenges the NPP would have gone through in the last 8 years in office, would have won the 2024 elections. In my respectful view,
performed better.
In my respectful view, given what the performance was, particularly between 2020 or 2021, post-COVID, no one can convince me that if you had put Nkrumah, Jerry Rawlings, or John Kufuor on the ticket of the NPP, they would have won that election, because you had it everywhere. People became tired, they were angry, they didn't like what was going on, they felt that the party had become, well, it had gone well beyond their capacity to reach them and say, look, things are bad, get back to base. Their own people within Parliament even raised these matters. But for some reason, the party was beyond the reach of the Ghanaian people. And the Honorable Jose Wusu also made a point in that interview with Marusanda that on the matter of the DDEP, for instance, he felt that they had underestimated
They didn't know
its impact on on the election. So you see, it will be self-serving for a candidate to say that, oh, well, it comes down to the candidate himself, not the collective performance of the NPP in government, and then also the individual performances, if you like, of some of the people who now hold the candle of accountability to the candidate in the last election.
Pascal, how do you measure two things? If a candidate is not important, why are they fighting to lead the party? Because I understand that a party's performance in government is very critical. Yeah, but there's a person on the ballot, and the reason they are all fighting to be on the ballot is that they believe that the way the person is perceived contributes to how people vote.
Yeah, it contributes.
So if you say, because of the way Ghanaians generally perceive the NPP, it wasn't a candidate issue, I don't think that's also another extreme. So whilst one extreme is to say you blame the candidate, I think it's also extreme to say you just blame the party. Maybe it's a combination of the two.
No, I've not said that. Of course, there are some other factors. For instance, I said previously, immediately after the elections, that I thought, based on people I had spoken to, there was also a religious question there. And people might say, oh, no, that is not the case. But they know in their heart of hearts that there were people who decided to sit at home, that they were not going to vote because they felt that, oh, no, we don't want a certain, person to occupy the presidency. There are people who will not say it, but in their heart of heart, you go to some of these religious platforms on WhatsApp and all of that, you have pastors who should know better dropping all kinds of these, comments about, oh, we don't want this, we don't want that, we don't want that. They might not confess it openly, but that is the reality. So that is also a question that the NPP itself would have to confront. But it is also a question that Ghanaians would have to confront, because the question is, does it so matter where the person is coming from? Whether the person is a Hunshi coming from Nogokpo, or his, a priest coming in from Antoine. The question is whether the person has the competence to be able to lead and do the work of president to the glory of God. That is the question that the person must ask himself. But some of these factors, while people want to hide behind, oh, we are nice people, we won't talk about it openly, but they actually do it hypocritically.
But to be fair, we haven't heard a lot of that in this campaign. I mean, the campaign we followed is more about the election performance.
Bernard, you see, I'm saying that things.
Let's not make, I'm saying that the people who are campaigning openly have not used that.
Bernard, elections are not about what you go and mount a platform and publicly
we can only
say.
speak to what we've heard. We can't speak to what you think somebody will be doing in
Bernard,
a quiet place, because
Bernard,
you can't prove that.
no.
So let's just deal with what we've heard. We are dealing with facts.
Bernard, you see, this is the pushback you always want to give on these matters.
I'm not saying that.
Bernard,
This guy has campaigned openly on this.
Bernard, you see, your use of the word,
And I'm using
open,
the primary, so not in the 2024 election.
You see, look, you are talking about openly. I have seen messages on platforms. No, you see, that's the point I'm making. You ask a question about the candidate himself,
Yes.
and I am giving you an analysis based on what I have seen, right?
Yeah, but that was back in 2024. You were saying that on 2024, the loss could have been occasioned by that too.
I am saying
Uh-huh.
that you cannot run away from this fact. You asked about the candidate.
Okay.
And I'm saying that you cannot run from that
I won't
fact.
run away from it.
And it is a question that the candidate himself must respond to,
Yeah.
the party must respond to, and Ghanaians,
No problem.
true to themselves, must respond to.
Let's stay on this.
Uh-huh.
What is it? I was just trying to contrast something.
Okay.
It seems to me as though the leading contenders are blaming the candidate for their loss.
Let me ask two questions.
I'm coming.
Okay.
And then you said it will not be fair to blame the candidate alone,
Yeah.
because there were other factors.
Exactly.
But I'm also saying that, is it not a combination of both the performance of the government and possibly the candidate?
Yeah, that's right. I
Before
made
you
that
then
concession.
brought in the third dimension
Yeah.
of maybe there's also a religion. Now I'm saying that while that may be true, I haven't seen it being used overtly in this campaign.
Okay.
I'm not saying that people don't do it. I'm saying that in this campaign I don't see it overtly. But let's come back to the delegates. So you have age profile of delegates and the education profile.
Yeah.
All right, because all of us are just trying to gauge what delegates think. Because if it was the five of us choosing, it would have been probably easy to know, but we don't know. The question is, do we know enough about delegates and the way they think to be able to perceive where their mind will be? Their age profile I've given, maybe I'll repeat that, and then I'll give you their education profile as well. And they are 90% of the voters. That's the other point. So MPs, constituency chairmen, regional chairmen together are less than 5%. The rest of the people voting are because the way the MPP is structured, polling station executives are the main people. And this is their age profile. 12% are aged between 25 and 34. So that's Caleb Kuda and below. Correct?
If he's still within that bracket.
I think he is. 35 to 44. Where we are, all of us here, we are 43%. So you, I, Godfred, and Kakra, we are all in this one. 45 to 54. So people up to Summons and above, they are 34%. And then only 9% are 5%, are 55 and above. So, and you cannot use somebody's age to determine how he thinks, but it gives you a certain sense of. So Musa's argument is that somebody who's 35 years old has been in the party for quite a long time and has a bit of history. So the person may be more conservative in their choice than somebody who's extremely young, who may be more radical in what he wants to see. I don't know whether that's true or not. Then he brings education. That, by the way, gender, 81% men, 19% women. So as for that one, I know you have a lot to say about it. Education, no formal education, 11%. JHS as the maximum, 43%.
So if you add that to no formal education,
53% is JHS or below.
that's significant.
Hey.
It's huge.
SHS 34%. Tertiary 12%. These are the people voting. Would that matter? And of course the regional breakdown. Greater Accra is the most, Ashanti second, and all the way through. So it looks. So what I want you to put yourself in the mind of the delegate, because you and I sitting here, we are outside the delegates. We are, we are. If you think like a typical delegate, that's why people are promising. For example, Educhum, I'll give health insurance for delegates.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether delegates, those are the things that they want, or that they're even thinking about 2028 election to win, or whether they just want to be better now because they know they are in the position, they just want money, or I don't know.
And just to further elaborate for you on the delegates makeup, there are 87% polling station executives.
Correct.
5% former executives and MPs, 2% electoral area coordinators, 2% constituency executives.
Charlie.
So you have elders and patrons and appointees at 1, and TESCON is 0.5, external branches, that's DIASPO, 0.5, and then regional and national officers 0.2.
People are the people.
Yeah.
You see, so
87%.
Bernard, the question of
Charlie.
the lack of sophistication, and I'm using the word, with all the respect I can command, and its impact on our elections is one that we do not often explore. I made a point here, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, that reading some of the best critics of democracy, it would seem the conclusion is that in order for democracy to work properly to the glory of God, you expect a certain rudimentary sophistication born out of some education to be able to establish that there are literates fully aware of the decision they are taking. Now, if you have a situation where people don't really understand what the issues are, and they are driven more by what they get, who they know, where they come from, or which church they go, or which shrine they go, then there is an issue. So if you combine JHS, which is not to say that they are that bad, I mean, at least they've had some education, with no education at all, and it is 53%. That is significant. But again, I want to temper that with a certain expression that, well, there's some wisdom in the public square, if there's no full wisdom in the public square. I want to believe that regardless of whatever limitations they may have, they appreciate where the party is. The question is, are they looking for a presidential candidate who will become president of the Republic of Ghana, most likely, or they are looking for a flag bearer, just so the person will run them into the next elections?
What's the difference? I think the question is, are they looking for their self-interest or the party's interest? I think that should be the question.
No.
Are they thinking about what they can get now, or what they want the party to get eventually?
Well,
sometimes that may be
the reason I framed it that
Flag
way
bearer versus
is
president.
The reason I framed it that way is because the party's interest doesn't always align with the national interest.
Okay.
Do you understand? So you may go and say, oh, the party's interest is let's produce this
the
person.
most popular person in the party.
But ultimately, that does not agree.
That's the flaw
with
of
the
democracy
national.
you've pointed out.
Exactly.
So that is
the
actually
question you raise about the delegates, and I think I largely agree with the point that Sky is making. My point of divergence will be that we are putting too much burden on the delegates or the concept of the delegates. Okay, I agree to the extent that we need more sophistication, basic sophistication, as Sky spells out. But I think that this rather spells a problem of leadership, a problem of a certain cosmetic democratic practice that we are practicing. We want it, but at the same time, we are creating a certain impression that there's everything wrong with it. What is wrong with the NPP's practice of democracy right now cannot largely be blamed on the delegates and their interests, okay? As a nation, we have failed to sort of work towards building up the average Ghanaian. And so when we decide that wisdom must come from the public, we created the public in the first place. The other thing for me is that the delegate system is not a delegate system in and of itself, okay? There's a certain quote hijacking. The delegate system ends up being who is the most popular personality seeking to contest the flag bearership, who has the most money, who can afford to impress the delegates with gifts, with promises, etc. Okay, so that becomes the leadership of the party, a problem of the leadership of the party coming across as a problem of the delegates. Remember that it is the same party that instituted this system, okay? And this is a system where the big wigs in the party still have a hold over the delegates. And so the delegates are there in their numbers, but their interest is serving the most popular person, the wealthiest or richest person within the NPP who wants to lead the NPP. I think that the NPP could have taken advantage of their moment in opposition right now, preparing to elect a leader, and perhaps put in a certain reset. Okay, reset their own, what do you call it?
Internal systems.
Their own internal democracy. For instance, my expectation would have been that instead of hearing the strongest personality, we hear personality attacks, this person is better than this person, instead of hearing promises to improve the lives of delegates who are a microcosm of the population of Ghana. I think that they should have been able to frame this election that they are going to do beyond their own.
Who has the best ideas for Ghana?
Not necessarily who has the best ideas. It should go beyond internal party matter. Okay, because
that's what I'm trying to say.
In as much as the political parties sort of guard the kind of political practice we have in Ghana, our democracy. Okay, because if a person if Sky wants to be president today, his best chances will go through either NPP or NDC. That in itself is not very democratic. Okay, so my position is that the NPP should have taken advantage, not necessarily to bring new ideas, but for me, and I always go back to the framework of the long-term framework for the national development. I would have expected to hear ideas about executing, because we've sat here and had conversations about how we failed to execute the plans we've made for 2057 and beyond. So for me, Dr. Baumia, Mr. Brian Achampon, Dr. Educhum, how are these gentlemen going to, what are their ideas to transform those ideas that have been sitting on paper, how they will execute those ideas for our development, our transformational development as a country? That's what I would have wanted.
But who would they be appealing to? Because they are facing an election of delegates.
But that's what I'm saying, that they've created a system that favors themselves. Because your conversation, you see, and what they are suffering right now.
I just want to understand. So how do you want the system to have run? So, for example, the suit that Nyauta Maklo and Professor Frimpong Boateng saying that delegate system should be scrapped and then sort of all party members should vote. Would that have been a better way?
I will not speak as to what is a better way. I think that suit presents an opportunity.
No, I'm taking you on it. You say the system is wrong, as in only a few people are choosing. So I just want to understand what system should they use? Should they open it up to all card-carrying members?
No, because the delegate system in itself, on the face of it, should have been an open system to a chunk of the party members. But
so it means you support those guys.
But in practice, no, I don't support anybody. I'm just saying.
No, implication.
See, in practice, it is a select few influential who end up making the decision.
Let me push you further. So I have sat here and said to you that I don't think selection is a problem. It depends on who's selecting. For example, in China, their leaders are selected. Now they actually do very well. So I feel like we should not even be worried about whether it's a selection or an election. And rather look at whether the person selecting understands what he's doing, as you were saying. Okay, so so again, China is a different situation, but when somebody is selected
But question for me, Bernard, is that did we not know the caliber or the quality of the people constituting this delegate system? Did we not know that?
But there's no law that prevents a PhD person from being a polling station executive. It's just a natural system that people so the NPP didn't say that if you want to be a polling station executive, you shouldn't have a PhD. It just so turns out that most of the people who offer themselves to do it are these type of people.
The question is why?
I'm coming. So we also have to answer that question. Okay? Now, if all of us had gone to join a party and become police station executive, the ratio may have been different. So I don't think it's fair for us to just blame the parties. The parties have opened themselves to say, come and join. All of you sit on air saying you have ideas, you say you join. I'm coming. So if people who say they have PhDs will not go and be police station executives, then the people with GHS will go and do it.
Political parties don't function the way they want.
We cannot sit outside and criticize them and say, why are they only GHS?
We should
join.
Whatever decisions they make, Bernard, I don't think it's simple as joining. I don't think it's as simple as joining. Whatever decisions the political parties are going to make affects all of us, whether we are part of the political party.
Which is why we should be interested.
But please pay attention to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that how they are doing what they are doing affects all of us. And so the criticism or the critique is that they must do it in a way that is not just about a certain group.
But we have allowed them to do that because of our absence.
But
I'm saying
why
that-
our absence? That's the question you should ask.
Because
answer.
in our calculation, we feel safer doing what we do than to do that thing.
But not necessarily. Hold on, because you see,
And the
Not necessarily, because you have
and the educated pool in NPP and NDC.
yeah.
And some of them didn't NDC tell you and Omanibu Ahmad that because of the sophistication of vote things, they were going to
that's the point I was
recruit
going to make.
professionals to do. Legon professionals were doing polling station for NDC.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it was a party's conscious decision on the basis of what they
But
suffered at the
hiring
election.
professionals is even.
They didn't
They
hire
didn't hire them, voluntary.
That's fine.
Voluntary.
So recruiting professionals
Or
is-
professionals
is half-
volunteer to go.
Professionals
There was a call
volunteering
that this
to
is
go
what we need
is
to do.
half
Yes.
is half the problem solved, in my opinion. It is about the understanding of democracy and governance. I don't think that we are doing our governance right. I don't think that the people at that level, irrespective of educational background, necessarily understand how governance should be done and its objective.
Then opening it up doesn't even solve the problem. Because if you even say that let all card-carrying members of a political party even choose. You see, the flaw in democracy is that there's no other better system, according to Winston Churchill. You see,
That is flawed, but
well, that's his view. Because the point is that I asked Sky a very interesting question, and it may not apply here. That in some cases, we're talking about MMDC voting versus appointment. Sky, voting doesn't necessarily bring out an optimal choice of who leads people.
It's a popularity contest.
That's the
Exactly.
point. So there's already an inherent flaw. But that's why I say to you that you can appoint somebody who's very good. So we shouldn't be worried about the fact that it's only 211,000 people who are choosing. Are those 211,000 people choosing on the basis of their self-interest or on their national interest? That should be the question.
Yes,
because
but-
it's not about the opening it up may not even give us a better outcome. I ask you a question. If your newsroom has a leadership vacuum and you want to get somebody to lead it, will you let the staff in the newsroom vote, or you sit with some men and choose somebody?
I would choose somebody
Why would you do that?
because it produces a better outcome.
So why do you think the Chinese are stupid in choosing the things they choose when they say that somebody should be chosen to be a prefect in his constituency, and we say democracy, everybody should vote? There's an inherent flaw in democracy that we have to live with. So I'm pragmatic. I'm saying the best way to solve the problem is not to say democracy is bad. Get more people who think like you to get into it, so that they will choose what you believe is a better outcome. Because when you leave it to people who don't have money, who don't have a certain level of sophistication as you use it, they are susceptible to influence by the party bigwigs.
Exactly.
So you don't cure it by sort of blaming the parties. You cure it by encouraging more people of a certain caliber to take up that responsibility.
You
see,
no, you
that's how
can't
you
take
cure
the
it.
party out of it.
You do what?
You can't take the party out of
But
it. So in the case where a selection will be made, let's take the China model. Who will make that decision? Who selects a Sky or a Godfrey
People of substance, people who have been trained in leadership.
within the party?
Yes,
Yes.
who have been trained. But
The
that's-
back stops with the leadership, and that's why for
so
me,
you're talking
I don't
political
think.
party governance, that the political party should insist on having more quality people.
Why is the Electoral Commission in all of this?
They
who
will-
is the
they'll-
regulator?
They'll count the ballots.
You see, but you see, we should also be ready to concede that elitism would also rule for a while, because ultimately what happens is people know that they feel that they know better than everybody else. Oh, this is our field, we know it,
Yeah.
we know how to run the country, and ultimately the people rise and topple that and then replace that with what they call revolution. So
It's just another group of elite. They put they just change the name of the elite, but it's the same group that comes.
So you see, governing people has its own problems, right?
Now we are being philosophical.
We need to go there in a little.
But the question I asked people was that who will win? Because now we have the defined set.
Oh,
211,000.
I
See,
think
for me,
hold on. I'm
for me,
asking, hold on.
Let me answer that question.
Two things. First point was around why the race is tougher. He's explained that. Number two, what is at stake? He said is the soul of the party, and I think that's a very important point. So it's not just who leads the party. The way the campaign is going, whoever wins determines the direction of the party for the next
8 years.
because if the person has a certain view around how the party should function, it changes the whole dynamic. So it's a very important choice for Ghana that we've left in the hands of 211,000 people. We can only pray that they are thinking about the future of the country and not their own stomachs. That's all we can
I
do.
like that
we can't do
you
anything
say,
else.
Bernard, I like that you say it's an important choice.
Very
for
important
Ghana.
choice for Ghana.
And so, but it shouldn't be an important choice for the next 4 years, for the next 8 years. And for me, that is why I
What do
feel
you
like that's what I'm saying, that I feel that the opportunity has been missed. We are going to now continue or perpetuate the same old electoral culture that we have. The NPP could have changed the course of this country by changing how it is doing what it is doing, by not focusing on the usual impress delegates, get them to vote, we choose a flag bearer, we go to the national polls. We are going to continue with that failed cycle.
But I have a bit of pushback on that. I think it would be a bit harsh to simply assume that that is the national election alone is their focus, because we've had this conversation before, and also interactions with certain delegates who will tell you that their interest is the state of the party. Okay, and for them, the state of the party is important now. I think sometimes we must also credit delegates a certain level of intelligence, as to they understand that there are phases.
They want their party to work.
There are phases in the development of their party.
Yeah.
So they know the phase they are at now. There are very few NPP delegates you will talk to now who will tell you that their party is in a healthy state.
Of course.
The focus is not necessarily a national election, and they do understand that if the party is not in a healthy state, the party will not be able to contest a national election. So when you have conversations, most of them tell you who strengthens the party. For a very long time, there has been mention of, and we've had this discussion on the show before, it's been very clear for a while that there's a leadership gap in the NPP. The delegates know this, that they have a leadership gap. The delegates know that there is a structural deficit in their party. How many of the delegates have not spoken and said in other places that they are not very excited with the Justin Kudia Frimpong, Stephen Intims, Nana B leadership? They've said it several times, and that they feel that it has let them down. So their intent is to get people who gives them a perception of strength, which is why, for instance, the Kens and co have gained a stronghold, because a lot of the people who back them in that system will tell you that this is somebody, when he comes, will fight.
It's not
Yeah, I'm just saying.
No, that's the perception of
that's
some.
the perception of some delegates, that there's somebody who will fight and let us look strong. The perception of strength is very key for some of these delegates.
I mean that.
No, Sky, we are not
I
saying.
think there's a certain, there's a certain finesse around NPP leadership generally, right? It is not to be reduced to, without any disrespect, the booga approach to politics. You understand? Yes, you want to fight, but you want to fight with a certain rigor, a certain nuance, a certain intellect. Not just stand on a platform and shout and say all kinds. No, that's not how the NPP traditionally has positioned itself.
But that is what it has become.
So you see, even if there is,
from it.
no, I'm trying to make a point. So even if
look at
those are
these are powerful
weaknesses.
people in the party.
You see, so those are weaknesses. I believe ultimately the party itself will be able to cure that.
But is the party disappointed with that?
Of course.
Are you sure that Wuntumi cannot? So even to me, were to stand.
So disappointed he's contesting national election.
Sky.
But I'm sure the results will show.
Sky, wait. Sometimes a party may shift in character without its leaders even knowing that they are shifted.
That is
because
true.
if, for example, a Wuntumi is your Ashanti regional chairman who's now gunning for national
chairman. And it's a favorite. It's not just he's a favorite.
You may say that traditionally, I'm sure thinking about Jan Selby, I think about Darucha. That's where your mind is far.
No,
because you see the thing you're thinking.
No.
Sky, wait. You see, don't forget that the national radio culture we have, when we go and cover political party programs now, both NDC and NPP, do you know what tends to happen? They are having the main congress in the room with nice speeches. Party supporters gather around the tents of the radio stations where the
Vim people are.
Bro, so you go to the campaign. Maybe they are giving a speech. Then outside, Wuntumi is on some station firing. Kennedy is firing. You go to NDC Mugabe. So what I'm saying is that the people you are thinking about, they are in the room giving the speech. But the supporters, they are happy with the guys on the ground firing. And insidiously, these guys who are firing have now crept into leadership. Yeah. So
you know what allowed that?
What I'm saying is that we don't know.
But let me explain that.
We don't have briefly. I'm trying to tell you something. The character of a party may have changed without the party even realizing it.
Okay.
So maybe you are appealing to the ethos of what the party used to be. But the reality on the ground is that it has worked for them when they've used it to say, hey, we'll not let NDC push us down. We'll also show that we are giddy. So they've also become that way. And it's now difficult. Oya Mojata, how do you reverse the thing? Because now the guy is going to become your national chairman.
You see,
and now you're asking, hey, is this NPP character?
You see, the word is
NPP character has changed.
The word or the term is leadership, and the person providing it must know better.
Yep.
Now, you have to look at how the Akufo-Addo administration ran the country and then also the party. There were people who felt that having a strong national chairman, having a strong national general secretary, a strong general secretary and a strong leadership at the party level was going to create a certain dissonance.
No, they will oppose the government.
Exactly.
So let's get some people who can.
So people thought that the best way to deal with it, because of the man's own strong character, is to have someone who is, use the word perfunctory, who will do the job, who will not raise questions so much. So that has given rise to the emergence of certain qualities that you may not ordinarily expect to be in the national lineup. But it is what it is. But I believe that political parties have always found a way to cure these mischiefs. And in the fullness of time, I hope that the party leadership would reflect what the MP
There's a lot to be said. Let's read a few more comments as we wrap up this segment. Caleb, if you can help me with a few more comments.
He can't.
I will tell
that for
if
him.
you give me 2 minutes to tell you the order in which the election will go. Let me read the message.
No,
Bella, just before the
we can
messages,
do that
for me,
tomorrow.
it comes back to the interest of this internal process. Just quickly, it's still parochial party interest. That is it for me. But the messages coming in, Godfrey.
Okay, I believe in ideas of Ken, and I believe he will win. This is from Nene in Community 25. Kennedy Japan wins. He's got the audacity and loudness to bring back MPP supporters. Fred from Kukran to me. Good morning. The MPP elections on Saturday will be described like the Arsenal match. Ben, this election will go for RD. I don't know who RD is. And okay. Ejaba from Sakina, please. Your message is not too clear. Good morning, Ben. That's a Ghanaian voter with no party affiliation. I don't think some MPP members really want their party to win power if they elect someone else apart from Dr. Bawumia and this adult from New Bawe. I am not an MPP member, but if Kennedy wins, I will vote for him in the general election. And most of my friends say the same. This country needs an action-driven, radical-minded, no-nonsense person to change things.
Patriotic honesty and discipline.
Eric from Kofodia. Samuel Odamite from Kaswa. J. Rivers says, I think Dr. Bawumia will win, but narrowly this time. The previous one, he benefited from incumbency, and some delegates were coerced into voting for him. And Bernard, just a wrap up on that one. The gap will matter in this distance, in this election.
And that's what is not
There's
true.
a big difference between 70% and 57%.
Yeah.
And perhaps other shows will discuss it, like other programs we have here will discuss it. But I'm simply saying a win is not just a win in this particular.
And the other point to add to what you're saying is that the gap will
election.
matter, and also the post-election posturing of the candidate is very critical.
Yeah.
Because I feel like for MPP, it's a battle for not just the leader, but for also unity.
Yes.
And that's why I wanted to even raise the issue of the tone of the campaign, because a campaign must be held in such a way that when somebody loses, they can still be part of the system. But some of the things we are hearing, if they don't tone it down, it's going to cause a problem post-election, whoever wins.
I'm
which
sure
I think
we all know where the trouble will come from.
which is a bigger issue. Depends on who wins. I don't know who's winning. So whoever wins.
But I know who will win.
Yeah,
I told you that.
No, you know, but me, I don't. You know me, I don't. All right. We only have 2 days to find out.